All right, one other thing, Shane, before we hit to our picks for the first week of the SEC weekend, we got our buddy Brett Ciancia reached out to Pick Six Previews, one of our favorites in the college football media, to break down some of these games and really share insight that Shane and I don't have on the teams outside of the SEC. So let's kick it over to our interview with Brett Ciancia. All right, we're pleased to once again be joined by friend of the show, Brett Ciancia, Pick Six Previews, literally the best out there when you're talking preview magazines. Brett, I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Mike. And, you're catching me on a great time. We're recording here Thursday, opening night in college football. I feel like a little kid on Christmas Eve with all these great games coming up, a full season finally after a rocky 2020 and a heck of an off season. So I've been working on this season for about 8 months now, and I just can't wait to kick it off and break it down on the show here.
Yeah, you sound like Cousin Shane. He's probably a couple beers deep, and we're about 7 hours from kickoff here at Rocky Top. So I do appreciate you carving out this time. And before we get rolling here, of course, you have a promo here for your preview book for the listeners. Why don't you share that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So this is my 10th annual season preview book. Those first 9 seasons, I was graded the most accurate Power 5 in the country compared to all the ones you see on newsstands and online. And this is a digital download. It's all 65 Power 5 teams, and it's a one-man show. So it's a mix of my numbers, my graphics, and then my calls with coordinators and coaches and breaking it all down for you. So, and I know we're kind of late in the preview book cycle, so I have a nice discount code there for anyone interested. It's SEC, simple enough. Just type SEC in there at checkout for a nice discount, and a couple sample pages up there and testimonials as well. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's a perfect time to buy the book and get a preview of the season if maybe the season snuck up on you like it did a lot of us. But, of course, I have Brett on the show to talk about the 4 Power 5 conference matchups we've got this weekend in the SEC, provide some insight on some of these non-conference teams. But I got to ask you, Brett, before we get to those 4 matchups, anything else that you'll be having your eye on this weekend in the SEC? There's so many coaching turnovers and transfer quarterbacks coming into the league. Anything that you're maybe more interested in than just about anything else with the teams that are not in one of these 4 showcase games?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I could go on and on about this topic. I can't wait to see all of them in action, really. First, speaking to quarterbacks, I want to see Haynes King at Texas A&M. I think that they have a strong defense returning and so much firepower at the skill positions, all-American caliber at the skill positions. So really, I think they're a quarterback away from contending for the SEC and potentially even the playoffs. So I want to see the first look at Haynes King, this dual threat, taking over at A&M. Additionally, a quarterback down in South Carolina with the grad transfer, grad assistant, GA, taking over at quarterback. That's quite a story. I want to see how that new look offense looks under Shane Beamer. Another new look offense with Kentucky. If they can get anything out of their pass game, I know it'll be early on in the season, but I want to see what that new offense looks like. I'm sure they're going to retain that power run identity. That great offensive line is back, but can we get anything out of the pass game? Because I think if you can mix in some passing, that makes them a top 25 caliber team. And then, of course, the 4 we're going to break down are just in colossal matchups, a lot of them. So very excited to see some Power 5 matchups right out of the gate. But no, there's so much to get excited for. I can't wait.
Well, let's just get right into the action then, Brett, with the national showcase game here. Let's start with Alabama versus Miami. The game is in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium there in Atlanta. Thoughts on this matchup, and can you provide our Alabama listeners with some insight into the Miami program?
Yeah, absolutely. So with Miami, it all starts at quarterback. You have an absolute game changer there with De'Ara King. He came in and to a program that had really struggled in a couple areas, specifically offensive line and quarterback. He came in and really solidified that position. And not only that, but brought some game-changing playmaking ability. You saw it all last year, and I think he's back healthy, ready to go to run Rhett Lashley's power spread offense. But for this matchup, I'm pretty pessimistic on Miami. I like Alabama to really roll here out of the gates for a couple of reasons. I think that Alabama is going to start the season defense first for the first time since 2015, just by a matter of experience and star power. It's more proven right now on the defensive side, especially that front seven. And that is a terrible matchup for Miami because their offensive line is still shaky year after year. And if you check the injury reports or the rumor mill, you see that Zion Nelson, their All-American offensive lineman, is questionable or doubtful. So just another blow to Miami's chances. And then also when you think about what made Miami special last year, it was their defensive pass rush. They had these three guys, Jalen Phillips, a five-star, Greg Rousseau, and Quincy Roche, the former All-AAC Player of the Year from Temple. So now all three of those guys are gone. They're all in the pros, and you lose defensive coordinator Blake Baker, shifted over to LSU. So while I think it'll still look like the Manny Diaz defenses they usually have, which are blitz-heavy, aggressive, they lose a lot of firepower there at the edge rush, pass rush spot. So I like Alabama here. I know they have a couple or a lot of new faces on offense, but I think they still have the talent advantage, raw talent, and obviously the coaching advantage. If you give Nick Saban 8 months to roll in this game, I like Alabama big.
All right, now here's one that I'll really have my eye on. I cannot wait to see the LSU Tigers take the field for the first time. They're on the road in the Rose Bowl against UCLA. Of course, UCLA played last week against Hawaii, and that running attack looked pretty good. What can you tell us about Chip Kelly's latest UCLA team?
Yeah, so this is the fourth year for Chip Kelly at UCLA, and it's definitely his fourth best team. Or I'm sorry, the best team in 4 years. Mm-hmm. A couple of issues have plagued them the first 3 years under Chip Kelly. It was quarterback play. Dorian Thompson-Robinson was turning the ball over a lot, taking bad sacks, and they had bad penalties. And then defensively, they were really struggling there. But in 2020, what you saw was Chip Kelly fixed both positions, both issues. First with DTR, the quarterback, he cut down those turnovers. His touchdown to pick ratio went up. And really took care of the ball better. So you started to see improvement there at quarterback, and defensively he made a great hire bringing in Brian Norwood from Navy. And really they turned their defense around. And of course we got a first glance at them this year. Last Saturday in the week 0 opener against Hawaii, they played a complete game, all three phases of the game. Then they blocked a punt for a touchdown. Zach Charbonnet, the Michigan running back transfer, went for 3 touchdowns, and he looked sharp. So they look good. They did what they were supposed to do against an inferior opponent, but I really think LSU comes in there and rolls. And as far as home field advantage, I know that was kind of non-existent in 2020. Mm-hmm. It's still non-existent in UCLA. If you watched them last Saturday, it was their lowest attendance in 20 or 30 years since 1992. I think they had 30,000 officially. I don't know, unofficially that number looked pretty high. It was empty in the Rose Bowl. So I imagine it's going to be a lot of purple and gold and going to feel like Baton Rouge West out there. So I like LSU at every position group to have the advantage.
Now, it looks like we're going to have some fireworks here again in Atlanta come Monday evening with Ole Miss and Louisville closing the week here in the SEC. What can you tell us about this matchup and Scott Satterfield's latest team?
Yeah, so Louisville, what they bring under Scott Satterfield, it's a very balanced attack. They're one of the few, I think one of only 4 programs out there that average 200-plus yards passing and 200 yards plus rushing per game in both his years, 19 and 20. So a very balanced attack. That's what they're going to try and do this year, although they lose so much firepower to the pros. Their great 1-2 punch at receiver of Tutu Atwell and Des Fitzpatrick, both drafted. And then Hawkins, their 1,500-yard rusher, gone. So they're replacing really their 3 biggest playmakers on offense. Malik Cunningham is pretty accurate as a passer. He had a great year in 2019, took a little bit of a step back in 2020. But I think that he's still a solid quarterback. It's just a matter of who's he going to get the ball to. But really a glaring issue for Louisville is their offensive line. It's been the worst offensive line in America, or at least in Power 5, even before Lamar Jackson was there winning the Heisman. They can't block anyone. They lead the nation in sacks per season. So that's still an issue until proven otherwise. And lastly, what really plagued their season last year was turnovers on both sides of the ball. They were giving the ball up like crazy on offense and really struggled with takeaways on defense. And I know the turnovers are sometimes luck or random, but these were poor decisions on offense and just dropped picks and not enough forced fumbles on defense. So that really held them back in the win-loss column. So I think it's a decent team. I do think Ole Miss, obviously with their offense, they're going to put up a ton of points. When you look at Louisville's defense last year, they gave up 46 to Georgia Tech who was a 3-win team. They gave up 42 to Virginia Tech, 34 to BC. These are not incredible offenses by any means. So I can't imagine what Ole Miss is going to do with Matt Corral and Lane Kiffin. I think Ole Miss wins big time.
All right, I saved the best for the last. Georgia and Clemson in Charlotte, the heavyweight showdown. What can you tell us about the Clemson Tigers, and who do you like in the matchup?
Yeah, so this is the headliner of the weekend. It's our biggest non-conference game since, I think, 2016 or 17. I'm drawing a blank on the year, when it was Florida State versus Alabama there in the top 5, both facing off. And I think this one's going to be more exciting because back in that game, Florida State's quarterback was knocked out in the first quarter, and it was kind of a snoozer. So I think we're in for an incredible matchup here. It's strength on strength. And, if you read the preview book so far or saw some tweets, I have Georgia not only winning the SEC, but making the college football playoff. And I don't have Clemson in the bracket. So this game is pretty foundational to my season preview and all the research I put in. So I think Georgia wins it. Specifically for a position matchup I really like is Georgia's front 7 against Clemson's offensive line. And when you look at Clemson during the Dabo dynasty, their great years there in 18 and 19, their offensive line was number 1 in the country in yards per carry in run push, both years. But last year you saw a big step back. They went from number 1 all the way down to 70, which is below average. So, that's a huge question mark coming into 2021. Can they get back to their peak, or is this going to be a growing issue? They lose Travis Etienne, who was a big part of that factor too. So, couple that with Dabo coming out saying they're going to rotate their centers throughout the game. I've never heard of that. That's going to be disastrous, considering how important a center is to the offensive line and the calls and, the pre-snap adjustments. So I like Georgia's front 7 to roll there, really put pressure on a new starter, DJU, for Clemson. And I have Georgia winning a tight one. I have them winning by 3. I know that the Vegas spread is they're underdog by 3, so I have them winning straight out.
Well, we certainly do appreciate that bet. 4-0, it sounds like, for the SEC and these marquee matchups. So, man, what insight and information you can provide. And I kind of joke, but it's not really a joke. Shane and I, we don't know anything about these teams. So we really do appreciate the insight that you can provide on these non-conference opponents, because we're just so excited for the season opener. People are going to eat this up. Can you tell us one more time, Brett, before we let you go, where fans can find your Pick 6 Previews magazine?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, and it's great to have non-conference back. You guys know how important perception is in this sport. I mean, perception really drives the rankings, which gets you better TV slots, which gets you improved, impressions on recruits. And then the more recruits come, the more wins come, and the cycle completes itself. So perception's everything, and this is a huge weekend for the SEC. And it's not just me saying it's on an SEC show. I've got all 4 of them winning straight up. So, thanks again. It's pick6previews.com. And on there, you can see a couple sample teams. Use discount code SEC if interested. And on Twitter, @Pick6Previews, all spelled out.
All right, Brett, I really, really do appreciate it. Have a great start to the season, and I look forward to having you back on the show soon.
Yeah, enjoy, guys. It's been a long time coming, so enjoy this one.
All right, Shane, so great interview there from Brett, as always, previewing the big matchups here this weekend in the SEC. But are you ready to make our official picks for Week 1 action?
Mike, I was born ready. Let's do it.